Politics now. Fiorina grabbing the spotlight during yesterday's Republican debate. Her performance lighting up social media. And check out this Google map of the top candidate searches by state. The green representing Fiorina everywhere. Even former Texas Gov Rick Perry saying Carly should have been the one negotiating the Iranian nuclear deal.
I will tell you one thing. I would a whole lot rather had Carly Fiorina over there doing our negotiation than John Kerry. Maybe we would have gotten a deal where we didn't give everything away.
Many of the candidates today moving on from the debate to the red state gathering for conservatives, and that's where we find Carly Fiorina. She's joining us now live in Atlanta. Great to have you back on The Real Story.
So glad to be with you, Gretchen. Thank you for having me.
All right, so I got to ask you this. Do you think that it was an advantage to you now to not make the top tier of the debate last night, because everyone's saying you killed this thing, you won it handily?
Well, you know what? I was just grateful to have an opportunity to talk to the American people. When I went into the debate last night, only 40% of Republican voters had ever heard my name. I'm not a professional politician and I'm not a celebrity, and so I still have a lot of introducing of myself to voters, and so that debate gave me a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah, well, apparently you did it in a fantastic way. One of your own people on the debate stage with you, Governor Rick Perry, saying you should have negotiated the Iranian deal. You were also asked that question on stage. What would you do? What would you have done better in your mind than John Kerry?
Oh my gosh, just about everything. But let's start with some cardinal rules of negotiation. I haven't negotiated a nuclear deal, but I've negotiated a lot of really big deals. Rule number one. Know what your goals are. Know what your must-haves are. President Obama laid out a very clear set of goals, what he called must-haves, and then he walked away from everything. Rule number two, walk away from the table sometime, because if you don't walk away, no one actually believes that your must-haves are your must-haves. And of course, we never walked away from the table. Rule number three, never celebrate a deal until you have the deal you want. And so when President Obama walks into the Rose Garden and celebrates a historic framework agreement that isn't even a deal, the Iranians conclude, we got him. He's publicly committed. And they then spent the next 4 months negotiating a better deal for themselves and a worse deal for us, for the region, and for the world.
Okay. I want to talk about Hillary Clinton because you eviscerated her in your closing remarks. Here's a snippet of that.
Hillary Clinton lies about Benghazi. She lies about emails. She is still defending Planned Parenthood, and she is still her party's front runner. 2016 is going to be a fight between conservatism and a Democrat Party that is undermining the very character of this nation.
Why did you decide to go after Hillary so vociferously last night?
Well, because she is her party's front runner, because she is proposing a set of progressive policies that are bad for this nation, bad for the people of this nation, bad for the character of this nation. You know, I always try and be very specific and fact-based. I don't call people names, I just talk about the facts, and the facts are these. She did lie about Benghazi. She did lie about her emails. She did lie about her server. And that tells us a lot about her character. And character is core to someone who wants to be commander-in-chief.
I want to talk about Donald Trump because you have been one of the candidates who has not really come out swinging against him. However, last night in the debate, while you said that it was, good for him that he's in the front place right now in the polls, you did zing him because you wondered what kind of policies he's actually going to come out with now because he's been sort of wishy-washy. How did you make that crucial decision to go after him?
Well, I was asked a very direct question. Martha MacCallum asked me a very direct question about Donald Trump, and I always try and answer questions directly. And so it is a real question in my mind, because he has changed his mind on amnesty, on health care, and on abortion. I think it's a very legitimate question.
Let me ask you about your business acumen, because this is something that you are no doubt running on because you have not been a politician. And some people might say, well, you were ousted at Hewlett-Packard, so how can you run on your business experience? What would you respond to people who might ask that?
Well, Gretchen, let me apologize. First of all, we're apparently being a bit disruptive to the audience here, but I led HP through a very difficult time. the dot-com bust, post 9/11, the worst technology recession in 25 years. And despite those tough times, which sometimes call for tough decisions, we took a company from $44 billion to almost $90 billion. We quadrupled its growth rate, quadrupled its cash flow, tripled its rate of innovation to 11 patents a day, and went from lagging behind everywhere to leading everywhere. And yes, I was fired at the end of that 6 years in a boardroom brawl. And I was fired because when you challenge the status quo, which is what leaders must do, you make enemies. And it's one of the reasons so few people choose to lead. We need a leader in the Oval Office who will challenge the status quo of Washington, because the weight, the power, the cost, the complexity of this government is crushing the potential of this nation.
All right, and we had mentioned, sorry that we're disrupting the crowd there. I feel like now we're on a golf course. But anyway, you are going to be speaking in about an hour or so at this big event. We're actually going to have Eric Erickson, who's running this event, coming up a little bit later on The Real Story. Carly, all the best to you. Thank you for joining us today. We hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
Great for our tax base.